Welcome back, America. Late last week, my colleague Greg Piper and I broke a story right here on this show about the partnership between a private entity made up of liberal organizations and education institutions, universities, and the federal government to censor Americans' content. This is the largest known federally sanctioned effort at censorship ever recorded in America. 22 million tweets were impacted, 5,000 URLs, 20 news sites, 29 influencers, all targeted by this coalition. Well, one of the people whose content was mentioned and targeted in the final report by this coalition is Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she is joining with us right now. Congresswoman, great to have you in the show.
Thank you for having me, John. And of course, I'm not surprised to find out these revelations. Not surprised, but I'm very angry about it.
It is. It's maddening. You're at the time this is occurring, you're a Congresswoman-elect. You are part of the about to join Congress. There's a separation of powers issue here between the executive branch and its arm, this private arm, and you. When you first learned that you're flagged, you're censored, they're talking about you, what came to mind?
Well, this is something I felt like I knew was happening. You can tell when you're posting something on, say, Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. You can tell if your reach is limited. I'd always gotten messages from people, many people, saying that their accounts had somehow unfollowed mine, even though they say they did not. So there was always something wrong, and I knew it all. I knew it this entire time. But really, it's shocking because I was a candidate for Congress at that time. I was not yet sworn in. I wasn't a sitting member of Congress. So I was a private citizen in 2020. And what really bothers me, John, is this is interfering in elections. It's election interference, which is illegal. They should not have been doing that. But it's the fact that they were doing it and it was happening through the Department of Homeland Security. Who has the right to pick and choose whose speech counts and whose speech does not count? And what bothers me very much is it's the American taxpayers that pay for the elections, John. And if they were upset with statements I was making and posting about elections, then that's also very concerning because that's my freedom of speech and it's the taxpayers' rights to care about their elections and election integrity. But even further, it's a violation of my First Amendment, my freedom of speech. And for conservatives, this has been going on for far too long. But the fact that there was a scheme, an actual organized plan within our federal government that was targeting me, yourself, many other conservative news companies' accounts, and of course President Trump. You know he was at the top of the list. This is completely unconstitutional. It's illegal. We have to investigate it, and I believe people should go to jail.
Yeah, Congresswoman, that was going to be my question. Hypothetically speaking, if Republicans do win back the majority in the House in January, day one, what's the top priority? What's the first thing that you've got to tackle to dismantle this censorship?
Well, we have to launch an investigation. We'll have to subpoena all the people involved and bring them before Congress. We will have to, we should immediately send preservations of records. We need to really dig into this one because this is so severe. I believe this is one of the worst things that we have learned happened, and it happened even under President Trump in his administration. And these are the kind of people that were constantly undermining his presidency. It's well known that this was happening. There were always leaks within his administration. And we know that this is what we call the swamp. It's the unelected bureaucrats that want to control everything, no matter who the administration is. And that's against the people's will. They have no right to do that. So, Amanda, that's a great question. And I'll tell you right now, we have to lead the charge when Republicans take back the House and launch investigations and get very serious about this one.
Yeah, it's very important. And given that there's a couple of months still between now and the election and when Republicans could even take over if they won, are you going to send out preservation letters now to try to preserve the evidence? And two, you talked about your own personal free speech rights being infringed. That's clear in these documents. Might you take some legal action as a private citizen?
Yes, I've already talked to an attorney. I spoke with him last week, John, because I believe these are it's a complete violation of my freedom of speech. I was a private citizen, and I'm owed damages. They have no right to do this to me. I just need to find out how many people I need to name on lawsuits and the social media companies. I've had enough of it. You know, I'm the only sitting member of Congress that had my personal account permanently banned by Twitter for so-called COVID misinformation, when in fact, if you look back at those tweets that they claimed they banned me for, guess what? There's nothing wrong with those tweets, and Twitter is the one that's in the wrong. So they should restore my personal account, because that should have never happened, and I should talk to my attorney about suing them as well for that. Now, another thing is, there's many other people, I think, that had their rights violated in this unbelievable scheme. I mean, you talk about a conspiracy. The Democrats are constantly attacking us about Russian collusion and all these other insane things. But here, you talk about a conspiracy. The fact that the DCCC, the Democrats were engaging in this ability to hire private companies that could pick and choose whose posts and whose tweets were allowed to stay and whose got taken down. That is an unbelievable conspiracy. And that just shows you the bias that social media companies have, that they were willing to do it. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to finding out more from my attorney of what I can and can't do, as well as investigating this when I get back on committees in January. And I know many other Republicans are going to be very interested in this one.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, their tech skills seem to have no limits until it comes to identifying the person who swatted you twice. So it's pretty interesting and convenient. Speaking of skilled people in the tech industry, as I predict with your investigations, I think at some point Republicans would like to have some expert witnesses from the tech community. And I'm wondering if you guys have already identified some allies, because you've got folks like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and folks like that who could really have an insight into the industry and identify problematic behavior. Have you guys thought about that?
Yes, Amanda, you're so smart, always asking the right questions. Yes, of course, we have been thinking about that. I really don't want to name any names right now, because you don't always lay out your plans for your enemies, especially the ones that violate your rights and want to destroy your freedom of speech. So we'll save that for January when Republicans take back the House. But this is something we're very much looking forward to do. Too many Americans have had their speech silenced based on their political thoughts, feelings, statements, and that is completely wrong. And you know, it is interesting how they can find certain things to take off of social media, but yet just recently, last week, we saw I believe she was in middle school, killed herself based on the bias in her social media searches, that when she was suicidal, it led her down a trail where she ended up killing herself. We also see porn all over the internet. We see so many disgusting things on social media and on the internet. Those are the types of things that should be removed, not people's statements, not candidate statements like mine, not our speech, our political opinions. They don't have the right to do that. That's unconstitutional, it's illegal, and it's violating our rights. So we have a lot to do as Republicans, and John and Amanda, I can assure you I will definitely be leading the charge on that.
Yeah, and Congresswoman, we got about a minute left, about 45 seconds left. You just introduced a law to protect children from transgender surgeries. California's going in the opposite direction. Tell us about your law.
Absolutely. And John, I'll tell you what, this is a no-brainer. Every single Republican needs to get behind it, and Democrats do too. This so-called gender-affirming care is not gender-affirming care. It is child abuse. And it's the Protect Children's Innocent Act. Is the bill I introduced that's rapidly gaining support all within my conference and all over the country, because no one agrees with the fact that any child under the age of 18 should be able to have double mastectomies, hysterectomies, castration, puberty blockers, simply because they're confused a little bit about what their gender is and things like that. But the kids are being targeted today. We need to make it illegal. We need to protect kids from states like California who want to destroy parents' rights to protect their kids.
A lot of people are looking at that legislation. Congresswoman, such a great honor to have you on your show today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, John, and look forward to talking to you guys again.